Hi, these comments are for RR. I am Michael from OTC Online TOEFL Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. I hope that you and your family have the best Christmas ever. I know it's kind of crazy right now with the pandemic, but just have as much fun as you possibly can with your family. That's the main thing, right? Okay, so I have your essay over here. I have the writing rubrics right here so I can figure out your score. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to score the essay in the 4 area. But let's take a look at what you wrote and let's see how many corrections I have to make. So you already know how to organize this, right? So in the introduction you have a basically a compound sentence which states the main point of the reading and also the lecture. And then you show what the relationship is. The professor casts doubt on these misconceptions, right? So then you have your 3 body paragraphs, right? So in your first body paragraph, you have reading point number 1 along with listening point number 1. And then you have in the next paragraph, you have reading point number 2 along with listening point number 2. And then in the next paragraph, you have reading point 3 along with listening point 3. Okay, so reading is about 3 reasons why the subject in the portrait of Jane Austen, and in the lecture the professor casts doubt on these misconceptions. Okay, cast doubt on, believe in, accustomed to. You probably need to get a little more familiar with certain kinds of verbs that take prepositions. Right? So, okay, how about this? Go to Google and put a list of phrasal verbs in English grammar. So you can probably study that. Get used to, for example, believe in or cast doubt on. You need to get a little more familiar with how to use those verbs plus those prepositions. Say the author of the reading notes that I'm going to say Austen's family. I'm going to put authorized the use of the portrait as an image of Jane's letter. And then I think in this case, not so, but it is possible to use a transition word here, therefore recognizing it as a painting of the author. Moreover, the lecture states that the family supported the claim that the girl in the portrait was Jane Austen. This specific claim is challenged by the author, who suggests that the family authorized this portrait to be used 70 years after Jane's death, so these relatives had never met her personally. Okay? You say, second of all, the writer posits that the painting looks like a girl in Cassandra's sketch, which scientists know depicts Jane. The sketch, according to the reading, showed young Austen's face's characteristics. Okay, let's change this to facial. It showed young Austen's facial characteristics, nose, eyebrows, mount, and so on, which are similar to the portrait. The lecture, on the other hand, comments that Jane had several feminine cousins who were adolescents, as she was, and scientists think that it could be a sketch of one of her relatives. Moreover, in fact, I don't think moreover and in fact work together. I think in fact is fine. Because you're using the word in fact to emphasize an idea, right? You want to really... He argues that the sketch is believed to be of Marianne, Jane's niece. And this is a good positive. I like how you used this advanced grammar here. This tells me a lot about your sentence structure. Third of all, the author of the reading reports that even though the portrait does not have a sign or date, there is evidence it was made when Austen was young. Moreover, in the article, it is stated that the style resembles the style of Ozias Humphrey, a professional who could be hired for the girl's wealthy family. Who could have been. I think you're talking about something in the past as a possible reality, right? So I would say a professional who could have been hired for the girl's wealthy family. Now, what I really like, you get big points in this sentence, even though you have problems with this verb. But I like how you say Ozias Humphrey. You could have said who was a professional who could have been hired, but you reduce that first adjective clause to an appositive. And the appositive is a noun phrase which modifies, Humphrey. So that's pretty good grammar. Contrastingly, in the lecture, the speaker refutes that even though it looks like you want to just say Humphrey, the canvas used to paint the portrait was made by William, who started to sell canvas maybe paintings after Jane Austen was 27 years old, so it was impossible for her to be the woman in that portrait. Yeah, it seems like you're using so a lot. Be careful you don't overuse a certain type of grammar. So let's say here, you don't want to use one of the fanboys. You don't want to use a coordinating conjunction. So you could say, or hence, or thus, or consequently, one of those. So this gives you a little bit different sentence style, so you're not overusing that one particular thing. Okay, I think it's a pretty good essay, right? So I think 4 is reasonable. I'm not going to say 4.5 on this one. I'm going to just stick you at 4.0. I'm going to put you at 25 points out of 30. I did make a few minor corrections to your writing. So the rubric, it says here for 4, displays unity. Now let me go to the right one here. Hold on. Okay, here we go. So it says here, response at this level is generally good in selecting the important information from the lecture, coherently, accurately presenting. That's fine. You did that. It says that it may have minor omission, accuracy, and vagueness or imprecision of some content from the lecture. A response is also scored at this level if it has more frequent or noticeable minor language errors, as long as such usage and grammar structures do not result in anything more than the occasional lapse or clarity. Okay, so that's where you are right now. You're between. You could probably argue, and anybody at YouTube, if you want to, you think should it score higher than 25? I think 25 is a reasonable score. What do you guys think at YouTube? You also did some integrated speaking practice. In fact, in the email you told me, this is your 14th integrated speaking practice test, task number 4, listening, speaking, academic. I'm listening to the practice test right now. I have the independent speaking rubrics here so I can see these as I listen to your response. So 3, 2, 1.
The professor talks about the concept of diffusion, a process in which an invention is passed from one group to other, and provides 2 examples to further illustrate this idea.
I like the
To
tone.
begin with, a professor explains that newspapers read in the US have several characteristics of different cultures. For example, the professor notes that the characters are from an antique culture, the printing word process is from Germany, and the paper is from China. Moreover, the professor mentioned that diffusion is not happening so fast, since people offers a cultural resistance from ideas that look too foreign, but ideas which are not seen as too foreign are accepted and incorporated. For example, the professor says that the practice of acupuncture was absorbed in the US, but not the Chinese culture related to it. These 2 examples explain the concept of diffusion.
Okay, so you got You varied your tone in one of your sentences, which I like, but you didn't keep it up throughout the whole response. It's kind of like saying, "Hi, Michael, how are you? Can I talk to you about something real quick? I need to get a higher score on the TOEFL. I need to improve my reading and my listening and my grammar, my vocabulary. Do you have anything that can help me in those areas?" So you vary your tone just once, but not throughout the response. So I think you need to work on that. So I want you to be conscious of your tone a little bit more. You know how to change it, you know how to vary it, but you're just not consistent varying that tone. The consistency, I think, you need more of. Okay, let's listen to it one more time. My guess right now is probably you're between 2.5 and 3. I'm going to put you maybe around 20 to 21 points out of 30.
In the lecture, the professor talks about the concept of diffusion, a process in which an invention is passed from one group to other.
Now, when you see, he talks about the process of diffusion or diffusion. He talked about the process of diffusion, comma, a process by which blah, blah, blah. So when you pause, which you did, right? When you're pausing, your tone needs to go up slightly. And then that tells me you're not done with that sentence. Then when you get to the end of this sentence, that's when your tone should fall slightly.
Two examples to further illustrate this idea.
That's what I'm looking for. Right there, that. Listen to this.
It's about the concept of diffusion, a process in which an invention is passed
this
from
is
one
what I
group
like.
to
I
other,
like this.
and provides two examples to further illustrate this idea.
There, do more of that. You just put a face behind the audio file. You show some emotion in your voice. That's a good thing. Do more of that in many parts of your response.
To begin with, a professor explains that newspapers read in the US have several characteristics of different cultures. For example, the professor notes that the characters are from an antique culture.
That the what now?
The US have several characteristics of different
There's something you said here I'm not quite getting.
cultures. For example, the professor notes that the characters are from an antique
The characters. The characters are blah, blah, blah.
culture. The printing word process is from Germany and the paper is from China.
Okay, so you're just off a little bit on some of the vowel sounds and some of the words you're saying. That's also affecting your intelligibility.
Moreover, the professor mentioned that diffusion is not happening so fast, since people offers a cultural resistance from ideas.
Since people what? I'm going to check your subject-verb agreement.
And the paper is from China. Moreover, the professor mentioned that diffusion is not happening so fast, since people offers a cultural.
Since people offer, you're saying since people offers. Offers is a singular form of the verb, right? But you said people. Since people offer blah, blah, blah. So be careful of your subject-verb agreement.
Resistance from ideas that look too foreign, but ideas which are not seen as too foreign are accepted and incorporated. For example, the professor says that the practice of acupuncture was absorbed in the US, but not the Chinese culture related to it. These two examples explain the concept of diffusion.
Okay, so I think you got it. So I think that my score is pretty accurate. I'm putting you a little bit below 3. So listener effort is needed because of unclear articulation, awkward intonation, or choppy rhythm or pace. I think some things you say are not clear. For example, the word character. I had to go back and listen to that again. But you can also work on varying your tone a little more than you did. So I'm going to put you at 20 to 21 points out of 30 on this practice test.